We looked in our previous video how to add and subtract fractions, and in this one we're going to look at how to add and subtract when we have mixed numbers. For my class, anytime we have mixed numbers, our first step is always going to be to change them to improper fractions, and I have a separate video where we practice going back and forth between mixed number and improper fraction. When we're changing mixed number to improper fraction, we're going to multiply the denominator and the whole number and then add the numerator. We would say 9 times 4 plus 5, and that's going to give us 41. And then we keep the denominator the same, which would be 9. We would do the same thing with the second fraction. 3 times 2 plus 2. That would give us 8, and we keep the denominator the same and get 3. Once I get here, this is very similar to what we did in the previous video where we were adding fractions. When you add fractions, you're looking for a common denominator. Add or subtract common denominator. When we're working with mixed numbers, for my class, we're looking at multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction all in one assignment. And so I always tell students, when you get to your mixed number problem, once you change it to improper fractions, stop for a second and just look at what operation you're doing and make sure you do the next step that matches that operation. So for example, with multiplication, we would multiply straight across. With division, we would flip that second fraction. If you're adding or subtracting, our next step is to find a common denominator. And so that's what we're going to do. And we only do common denominators with addition and subtraction. And we're looking for a common denominator between 9 and 3. So what's a number that's a multiple of 9 that's also a multiple of 3? And this is where, if you need to, you can write out your multiples. I could just write out a few multiples of 9. And then I could write out some multiples of 3. And I'm looking for the smallest number that's in both lists. What's the smallest number that's a multiple of 9 and 3? And that would be 9. And again, you don't have to make out this list. It's just, if you're not sure, seeing it listed out like this sometimes is helpful to find that common denominator. My common denominator would be 9. This first fraction already has the denominator that I want. That means I don't have to do anything with this fraction. I can just write it. I can just bring it down, write it again. Sometimes students like to multiply it by 1. And that's fine, you get the same thing. Now for the second fraction, I need to multiply this 3 by something that's going to give me 9. So what can I multiply 3 by that gives me 9? 3. 3 times 3 is 9. If I multiply the bottom by 3, I need to also multiply the top by 3. And I'm just showing that I'm multiplying the top and bottom by 3 here. And if you just want to write it out, multiply by 3 and whatever makes sense to you. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 3 is 9. Now I have my two fractions. They have common denominators. So if I'm adding them, I add the top number and I keep the bottom number the same. Right, so the bottom number stays a 9, and I add 41 plus 24, and that gives me 65 over 9. For my class, if we start with a mixed number, we want to end with a mixed number if possible. This is an improper fraction, so it can be converted to a mixed number. And we do that by long division. And again, I have a separate video where I go over some more of these kind of examples. 9 will go into 65 7 times. And if you're not sure where 7 came from, this would be, you would just kind of go through your multiplication facts until you got a number close to 65, or you could guess and check with your calculator. You could say like 9 times 5, 9 times 8, 9 times 6, until you got something close to 65. So this would just kind of be multiplying by 9 in your calculator. But 9 times 7 is 63. And I would subtract those values and get 2. Once you're finished with your long division, you're going to take these 3 values and you're going to write them as a mixed number. 7 would be my whole number. It went 7 whole times. 2 is the numerator, and 9 is the denominator. So 7 and 2/9. I would need to make sure that my fraction 2/9, I need to make sure that this is in simplest form, and it is. There's no number that divides evenly into 2 and 9. Other than 1. And so I know it's in simplest form. And then we talked a little bit about in a previous video that the denominators for your improper fraction and your mixed numbers should be the same before you simplify, and those 2 numbers are the same. So 7 and 2/9 would be my final answer. For number 2, we're subtracting the 2 fractions, but we want to do the same steps, except we'll subtract our numerators. We're going to multiply and then add the 5. So 6 times 11, 66, plus 5. That gives us 71. And then we keep the bottom number the same. We would do the same thing with 5 and 1/8. We would say 8 times 5 plus 1 gives us 41/8. So we have 71/6 minus 41/8. We have to look, since we're subtracting these 2 fractions, we have to have common denominators. So once you change your mixed number to improper fraction, look and see what operation, if it's adding or subtracting, we need common denominators. So we're looking for a common denominator between 6 and 8. We're thinking about multiples of 6, multiples of 8. What multiple do they have in common? And if we need to, we can list them out. I'm just multiplying 6 times 1 is 6, times 2 is 12, times 3 is 18, 4 is 24. Just list out a few multiples. Again, you could do this in your head. Times 2 is 16, 3 is 24. And we can see that 24 is our common multiple, so that's going to be our denominator. I want this 6 right here to be a 24, so I'm thinking, what can I multiply 6 by that will give me 24? And that would be 4. So I need to multiply the top and the bottom by 4 to get my new fraction. I'm going to say 71 times 4, and that's going to give me 284 over 24. So I can use my calculator. 71 times 4. And that gives me 284, and then 6 times 4 is 24, and I'm subtracting. Then I look at my second fraction, the 41/8. I need the denominator to be 24. So I need to multiply that 8 by something that will give me 24. I know that 8 times 3 is 24. If I multiply the bottom by 3, I need to multiply the top by 3 as well. So I would say 41 times 3, and that would give me 123 over 24. Once I have my two fractions, I'm going to subtract the top and I keep the bottom the same. I'm going to say 284, so I have that here. 284 minus 123. And I'm going to get 161, so 161 over 24. Now for my class, since we started with mixed numbers, we want to end with a mixed number if possible. If these would have just been regular fractions, then it would have been okay to have an improper fraction for my answer. But I do need to convert this back into a mixed number. So I'm looking at how many times will 24 go into 161. This is where we may need to guess and check in our calculator a little bit and try to see if we can get something close to 161. So we might say 24 times 5, 24 times 6, 24 times 7, and just see if we can get close to 161. So 24 times 6. That's going to give me 144. So it's going to go 6 whole times, and 24 times 6 is 144. Then I want to subtract, and I'm going to get 17. 161 minus 144 is 17. And then I take these values and I put them in my mixed number form. So 6 is my whole number, 17 is my numerator, and then 24 is my denominator. So 6 and 17 over 24 is my final answer. I do need to make sure that my fraction's in simplest form. So if this could be simplified, I would need to do that, but it's already in simplest form for this problem.